It's somewhat rare to see an original new musical in the West End these days. It's even more rare to think of new musicals in terms of the National Theatre, especially popular musicals anyway. And then, in the space of a week, both of these rarities are disproven. Twice. Hot on the heels of Hadestown last week comes Standing at the Sky's Edge, the West End transfer finally playing at the Gillian Lynne Theatre. Last seen at the National Theatre's Olivier, but with its roots very firmly based in Sheffield, where it originated, the time has now come to see whether this local show truly has a global appeal. Over the past year, whenever I've been asked for a theatre recommendation, Standing at the Sky's Edge has always been at the tip of my tongue. I love the show's originality. It is fresh, it's contemporary, I was blown away by its musicality. Stunning. Shed more than a single tear on its emotional journey. And it reminds you of the need to carry tissues with you during shows like this. But I saw it a year ago, and I'm aware that the remembering can make the experiencing seem better than it was. To refresh my memory, with all the wisdom of checking the WhatsApp messages of an ex, I delved into my past review. I wrote, "The most phenomenally strong voices you're likely to hear outside a concert." I then noted most of the cast have changed for this new production. I wrote, "The Olivier stage looks like it has been created for the sole purpose of housing Ben Stones' set." I then remembered how cold and unwelcoming I find the Gillian Lynne Theatre. As many have said before me, looking back is rarely a good idea. The show has had much critical acclaim, but how much of that is due to the venues it's played? At both its pre- and post-COVID runs at Sheffield's Crucible, the audience really took the show to their hearts. Unsurprisingly perhaps, given its issues are quite literally close to home. Standing at the Sky's Edge has at its centre the Park Hill estate. Its development in the 60s, the later destruction and the later regeneration and gentrification evokes a feeling of the spirit of positivity and hope of the post-war 60s, or the suburban violence of the 80s, or the sense of rebirth of the new millennium. At the National Theatre, their run quickly sold out, but the typical, stereotypical National Theatre goer may be more motivated by political messages than they are by sing-along tunes. Standing at the Sky's Edge plays to this. Living in Park Hill are three representations of the family unit specific to the era in question. So in the 60s, we have steelworker unionist Harry, Joel Harper Jackson, and his supportive, strong wife, Rose, Rachel Wooding. When we move to the 80s, we have the refugee family from war-torn Liberia, Joy, Elizabeth Iadeli, and her guardian cousins, George, Baker Mufasa, and Grace, Charlie and Hector. Finally, in the 2010s, the family unit is one, newly single, newly relocated, and possibly newly lesbian Poppy, Laura Pitt Pulford. We follow each of these stories concurrently as they each take residence of the same flat over different timelines. And of course they are all impacted by the major political outcomes and themes of the time. So we have deindustrialisation and the subsequent unemployment. We have unemployment again, Thatcherism, racism, immigration, up to Brexit and the shaky job market, and of course housing itself. So if the Sheffield Crucible's production benefited from the pride the locals feel for their Grade 2 listed building, the National Theatre's production had the sort of themes that make many a National Theatre member rather moist. Of course you should play to your audience, and local passions and political beliefs are great at these venues, but how will this translate to a more general West End audience? With no recognisable film plot line, no Nicole Scherzinger in the lead, no French gymnasts welcoming you to a pre-show drink. What does Standing at the Sky's Edge have to compete against a Flying DeLorean, for example? Seeing it at its new home with these fresh eyes actually helped to make the answer clear. It has a hell of a lot of what makes a good musical great. Firstly, it has scale. Ben Stone's design seems to have replanted its roots into the walls and floors of the cavernous Gillian Lynne Theatre, and then it's grown out of it like some kind of theatrical Virginia creeper. His Park Hill estate is a sprawling mass of concrete blocks and balconies and walkways that fill every corner of the stage. Here we have the addition of a stairway and an extra balcony that adds extra levels and heights and increases the panoramic view. It's almost like watching a stage show but in IMAX. Using all this space makes the cast feel a lot larger than it was at the National, though actually it is the same number. They ooze on and off stage with a balletic repetition as tensions rise and decades move on. When they sing, they bring an oomph to the musical numbers that literally makes the floor shake. And it has power. Richard Hawley's music may not seem like the typical soundtrack for a jukebox musical. But this is not a typical jukebox musical. For a start, there's none of that awkwardly manipulated dialogue used to create unrealistic scenes whose job is to segue into the upcoming musical number. Have scenes like, "But where are you going?" "I'm going to the top of the hill." "I'm going to be nearer the sky." "But Margie, be careful. Don't go too near to the edge. And whatever you do, don't sit down." "Oh, Bobby, I'll be fine. I won't sit down. I'm just going to be..." Music swells. We have none of that. Instead, Hawley's songs act as a comment to the emotion being played out. For the most part, actors stand out of their characters and often have a mic in hand, giving powerful renditions of what were possibly songs of male angst, now recreated to have a more theatrical impact. At times, they have an infectious energy you tap your toe along to. For example, Time Is, led by Samuel Jordan, one of the few returning members of cast. And still a tender lost soul with a rock star voice that I could listen to for a whole album. On the other side of the coin, we have songs that break you emotionally. I defy anyone not to at least choke back a tear when hearing After the Rain, the song originally written by Hawley for Shirley Bassey.
This girl just can't take it anymore.
But sung by Rachel Woodley here. Just takes your breath away. Woodley is another member of the cast who's returning, and for me is the heart and soul and a standout star of this all-star cast. And it has a gentle intimacy. Against this vast setting and the powerful numbers, the stories it tells, the families and the relationships it shows are touchingly simple. They're all the stronger for being so. Resonant of the best kitchen sink or soap even, we quickly and easily take these characters into our hearts. We laugh at their jokes. We hope for their loves. We cry at their disappointments. There are enough references to Yorkshire, football and food, yes, a number of mentions, to make this show still feel local at heart. But surprisingly, or maybe not, that adds to rather than detracts from their global relatability. There are comparisons to be made here with that other local global show that brings to mind, Willie Russell's Blood Brothers. Both shows are very clearly and necessarily location specific, but both have themes that are recognisable to everybody who's lived, no matter your proximity to the actual region. Also, like Blood Brothers, you're unlikely to leave this show with a bounce in your step. Whilst hope is the heart of Standing at the Sky's Edge, hope kills you and keeps you alive. These may seem simple things, but the scale, power and intimacy are what makes Standing at the Sky's Edge such a strong musical. I needn't have worried about going back to the show, not to my ex, that's a different story. And neither should you. The show. Seeing Standing at the Sky's Edge again in a different venue with a new cast has simply reinforced my view that the deserved winner of last year's Olivier for Best New Musical.
And the Olivier, I am absolutely thrilled to say, goes to Standing at the Sky's Edge.
Has everything a good musical needs and often forgets to focus on. Whether you've seen it at the National or in Sheffield twice, or if you've never seen it before, I strongly recommend you go see it at its new home. Standing at the Sky's Edge stands head and shoulders above your typical West End musical, and I hope it will stay standing for a good time yet.